Good morning. Happy Easter. Oh, that was pathetic. Happy Easter. That's good. Well, it's great to see everybody here. Hey, before we jump into the message, it's so great to see everybody here. Well, first of all, let me introduce myself. If you're a guest or if you're tuning in online, welcome. Welcome to a church that cares deeply for people who feel spiritually disconnected, disenfranchised, or are deconstructing your faith. We are so grateful that you are here. My name is Ryan. I'm the lead pastor. My pronouns are he, him. I am a white, cisgendered, heterosexual man who has benefited from systems that have favored and were built for people who look like me, who love like me, who embody this world like me, but has created intense amounts of oppression and injustice in our world. And so, I believe that naming those privileges and leveraging those privileges for the sake of others is the start of a life committed to peacemaking and justice, or what Jesus called the kingdom of heaven. Philippians chapter 2 tells us that Jesus Christ, who was like God in every way, set aside all of that and took on the form of a servant. And that's the path that we're learning to walk here. So whoever you are, however you have come into this space, whether you are certain or skeptical, whether you are hopeful or hurting, you are welcome here fully. All of you is welcome here to be your authentic self. And I hope that you will join us as we walk in this peacemaking path of Jesus together. That's who we are. Thank you for being here today. Now, that being said, a little bit of information for some of you that might not know before we jump into the message, which, by the way, is terrible. It's not a good message, all right? If the first service is any indication, yeah, I knew it was going to be bad because I'm a contrarian by nature, right? And so most pastors, when it comes to Easter, they're like, everybody's going to be there. It's going to be double, triple. So they spend like double, triple the amount of time on their messages. I do the exact opposite. I spend no time. I don't even know what I'm going to talk about. So I'm like, I just tell you, it's going to be bad because if you come back, I want you to come back because these people are amazing and the values of our community are amazing. And I'm just a moron. Okay. That's the whole point. Okay. Is that we come back together. All right. So I just want you to know I'm intentionally going to be really, really awful today. Sometimes I'm trying and I'm still awful, but today that's the bar, garbage. That's what the talk is. But we'll get to that in just a second. You might not know, depending upon maybe this is your first time here, whatever it might be. I just want you to know that Crossroads Church, we are moving. So we're moving out of this building. And we're moving into downtown Loveland. It's going to be happening over the next few months. And so I know that kind of like for some of you, it's like, well, how am I supposed to listen to you now? Because what does that mean? Well, we're figuring it all out, but we're very excited. We believe that we're headed into this beautiful next chapter in the life of our church. And so please stay connected through our social media, stay connected through our website. But just know that if kind of like Crossroads has been your jam on Easter for a few years, if you come here next year, it won't be us. And it probably won't be our values. Okay, just so you know, I feel like I owe it to you to say that, all right? Like the sign will change, all that stuff, but we are present. I don't know if you know it or not, but there's nothing about our church that's dying, okay? The like rumors of our death are like highly exaggerated, okay? We're moving into an exciting season that we're looking forward to in the next chapter of the story of our church, okay? So, are we good? All right. So I hope you'll join us on that journey. Now, let me ask you a question. All right. And let's be honest for once in our lives. Okay. We are in church. Church. I know some people question whether what I do is church, but that's all right. Raise your hand up nice and high if you have ever been deeply frustrated with the person who came with you today. Just be honest. You have ever been super frustrated with the person who came with your church. Some of you looked at the person next to you to get permission just then. I mean, it was the greatest thing to watch. I saw people high five. I saw you high five. Like, no, not us, right? Liars. I mean, if there was purgatory and hell, some of you, like, you got to be honest, right? Like, the truth is we get frustrated with people we love. We get frustrated with people we care about. that we're invested into. Now, let me ask you this question. How many of you, crazy enough, have ever been deeply frustrated with a person you couldn't care less about? Some of you are like, am I allowed to say I don't care about some people? I don't know what kind of church you used to go into, but I'm just an honest person. Like, there are some people that I'm like, if I never see you again, it'll be too soon, right? Like, I mean, I'm not always on the peacemaking path. I'm trying, okay? I'm trying. But there are people that honestly we don't really care about. We don't know them. We're not invested in them, but they can frustrate us. And that's an even weirder phenomenon. Like, why am I so irritated at a person I've never met simply because they don't know how to work a roundabout or rotary or whatever you all call it in this part of the country? What do you call it? You call it a roundabout. I call it a rotary back east. That's what we call it. We take our cars around the rotary back east. Okay, that's what we do. Right? But we can get super emotional and frustrated with people we don't even care about. Now, let me ask another question that you're going to love to raise your hand. How many of you have ever felt deeply connected and filled with joy with the person you came to church with today? Raise your hand nice and high, right? You're like, some of you even looked at your, like, this one? Okay, yes, yeah, this one is good. This one is good. Like, do I have autonomy here? Agency? Okay, yes, this one I have agency. I get it, right? Why is this? Because if you've lived long enough, you know what it's like to live in both relational tension and relational bliss. Relationships have this tendency to do that. We know what it feels like if you've lived on this planet any length of time to have a relationship that fills your heart, fills your soul with joy, the kind of relationship where you just exhale and you feel safe and laughter comes naturally and you can be yourself and you're fully known. And the truth is, if you've lived long enough, you know the other side of that coin. You've known relationships that just carry this ache of tension. The conversation that just seems to go unresolved all the time. The friendship that is growing distance. The marriage, the partnership that feels fragile. The family dynamic that is just like somebody just pressing the button, touching that old wound. Right? I mean, the relationship in your life, you know what it's like to have one that's changing and you're just unsure of what it's going to look like. What is this relationship going to be like? And most of us have lived somewhere between those two realities, relational bliss and relational tension. Because relationships are beautiful, but relationships are complex. They can be a place of our deepest joy and our deepest pain all at the same time. And they are where we often feel most alive, but they're also where we often feel most wounded. And when a relationship feels strained, right, when it feels like the walls are pressing in on us, most of us instinctively begin with the same question: what are they doing wrong? Can I get an amen? Right? Most of us don't go into self-reflection mode. Like, most of us don't end up in an argument and going, you know what, time out. I think I'm wrong. I think I am actually being a total jerk right now. I don't need you to tell me that. We don't do that, right? We ask, why are they so distant? Why aren't they communicating better? Why do they keep reacting like that? What's wrong with them? Why can't they just see what this is doing to us, to our relationship? And when those relationships are painful, what is our first language? Blame. Who's the blame? How many blamers we got in the room? How many of you are blamers? Raise your hand up nice and high. It feels so good. You could care less about solving the problem. You just want to know whose fault it is, right? The tension in your heart is not about the issue, but it's about who caused the issue. Once we discover who caused the issue, I can go away happy. Don't need to fix it. I just know where it started. Blame feels so good. We love to look outward before we look inward. We start with their tone. Oh, don't use that tone with me. Meanwhile, we've said that in like the worst tone possible. We call names when we say don't call names. Right? And when we do this, we look outward. We look at their patterns and their failures. And here's the deal. Like, some of those things are real, right? It's not to say that they're not. But before we place all these expectations on others, Easter, the resurrection, believe it or not, invites us into a deeper question, a better question. How am I showing up? How am I showing up in this relationship, in these relationships? Because the whole point of the story of Easter and the resurrection is that you and I are loved and whole, and we have nothing to prove to anyone. And so we can humbly admit that there might be some growth edges in our lives. No? Y'all are good? Well, the next 45 minutes is going to be a waste of your life. Some of you are doing the math. You're like, 45, the roast. No, this is not going to work for me. It won't be 45. It'll be like 42, I promise. Just depends on how many jokes get me astray or whatever, you know. But the resurrection invites us to say, I am whole, I am wonderful, I am beautiful, I am loved. All the religion has told me that is wrong with me, all the things that humanity has tried to say God needs and God wants, the cross and the resurrection reveals something completely different, that love is what it's all about, and that I am loved. And so guess what? I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to perform. So the resurrection invites us into what we call a cruciform life. Everybody say that nice big word, cruciform. A cruciform life is a life that is filled with death and resurrection, death and resurrection. See, sometimes you go to church, you go to religion, and oh my gosh, we think that the resurrection is about a moment in time, a thing that happened, a work that was done, and now I get to go to heaven. And I can tell you, I'm not going to go off on this, but that version is harmful. That version is reductionist of the incredible life of Jesus. And what the resurrection and the story of the cross invite us into is to say, I can be secure enough and loved to know that if I will choose to live a life of death and resurrection, dying to self, rising to new life, every day, every relationship, in every way, then I can become the best version of myself. And that's the beauty of what Easter invites us into, a sense of security and stability, not so that we can walk around telling everybody how to believe and how to act and how to dress and who to love and what church to go to and what church not to go to and what to believe and what not to believe, although I was trained to do that. So if you want me to do that, I can do that. I mean, I have a whole degree in that. But the resurrection invites us to bypass all of that and say, love wins. Love wins. And to bring that into these relationships, right? Because here's the thing, the question when we're in this moment, right? How we act, how we come to these relationships reveal not just something about the other person, right? But how we respond and how we show up reveal who we are becoming, who we are. And that's what's at stake. If we just continually to fall into this trap of blaming, it's their fault, they need to change, they need to do this, we slowly surrender the resurrection power that can transform us into the best version of ourselves for today. Tomorrow is a different story. But if we think about like this moment, this relationship, and when all we do is work super hard to fix other people, we continue to live in a tomb of sorts. We continue to live in this dark space where we deny that resurrection power is needed in our lives or necessary to transform us, to make us more loving, more humble, more joy-filled. And so we quickly try to become experts in what they need to fix while remaining strangers to what is happening within us. And when that happens, we all know where we go. We go to places of resentment. Resentment deepens in our hearts towards them. They're not changing. Assumptions about who they are hardens. Conversations become just rehearsals of old wounds. We get stuck in a rut. The relationship stops. It stops moving because we are waiting on someone else's transformation before we permit our own. And the longer that you and I stay in that pattern, the more peace eludes us. The more peace feels impossible. Because when my hope depends entirely on changing someone else, my inner life becomes hostage to what I cannot control. That's a mouthful of words. When my life, when my hope, my happiness, my joy depends on someone else's decisions to change, I have surrendered my life to them. And I've said, you are now responsible for my happiness. You are now responsible for my ability to love. You are now responsible for my ability to show up with grace. You are now responsible for my ability to have dignity. And we become hostage to things that we can't control. And so we stay stuck in the blame game because it gives us this illusion of clarity. I know what the problem is, but what happens is our agency is taken away from us. But the resurrection and Easter offers us a different way. And if we pause and we think, okay, this is where the resurrection story can give us some wisdom to how we can start to show up in these spaces as our best selves into every relationship that we have. Because Easter isn't just about this empty tomb. It's about how people came into relationship and contact with a resurrected Jesus. right? Our stories, our tradition tell us that people experienced this Jesus after he died. And the stories are teaching us something about the nature of God. And we get to see when we look at these stories how people learn to relate to the risen Christ and to themselves, even when that relationship changes. And so there's wisdom in paying attention to these kinds of things. And so that's what we're going to do for the next 5 weeks. See, this message can be bad, terrible, useless, because we're actually extending it for another 4 or 5 weeks. So for the next 4 or 5 weeks, we're going to look at these encounters of people with the resurrected Jesus. And we're going to ask ourselves, how do these relationships, how do these encounters in a relationship with a resurrected Christ, what can they teach us about ourselves? And how can we commit to certain things? And so there's wisdom in how we see 4 people, Mary, John, Thomas, and Peter. We're going to look at these 4 stories over the next 4 or 5 weeks. Each encounter Jesus, and each do this in a way in which their relationship is different, because the resurrection changed their relationship. And in each encounter, we're invited to notice just a different way of showing up, a different posture we can hold, a different response, a different kind of hope. And that's why these stories matter for our everyday lives, because every one of us knows what it feels like to have a relationship change. I don't know if you know it or not, but if you're following a guy and he says, hey, follow me, and we're going to change the world together, and all of your hope is in there, and then that person dies, that changes the relationship. And then that person has the audacity to show back up and then leave again. It's like, Jesus, make up your mind. Are you here? Are you not here, right? This is why I don't take these stories literally, but I take them seriously, because they're teaching us something about ourselves. I believe Jesus, his life, his death, his teachings, his resurrection are not about how to become like God or go to heaven. They're about how to become fully human in this world that's filled with evil and hurt and pain. And so that's what we're going to look at. We're going to look at these stories, and we're going to see how we can make certain commitments. So we're going to walk through the resurrection encounters. And today I want to just kind of like talk about these 4, give a little bit of an introduction of what they are very, very quickly. All right. So the first one is Mary Magdalene. And all these are going to come out of the Gospel of John. So if you're like a total Bible nerd, reread the last few chapters of the Gospel of John over the next couple of weeks. These are the stories we're going to kind of unpack. So Mary Magdalene is a follower of Jesus, a disciple of Jesus. Life has been changed. She's been empowered in a patriarchal world to come and follow Jesus. Jesus dies, changes everything. She's going to the tomb that morning, and she's bringing spices to care for the body, because that's at least what she has. And when she gets there, she discovers the stone is rolled away, the tomb is empty, and there's a gardener there just sitting in all arrogance. And she sees this gardener, and she's like, "What have you done with Jesus?" And she's angry at him. And the gardener just kind of like sits there. And we find Mary in this moment like confused. Mary's filled with grief. She's filled with loss. This relationship that she had is different now. And she's in this place where she expected death. But now she has something else, and she's not sure what it is. And so she stands outside the tomb, and she's weeping. And she's in this new relationship season. First it's death, and now he's gone. And the things I thought I could do for him, I can't even do. Mary isn't new to Jesus, but is new to the moment is new in that relationship. There's a new way of relating and knowing. And so she thinks this gardener had something to do with the stealing of Jesus's body. And she says, "Tell me where it is, and I'll go get it and bring it back." And I believe she could have done it too. And all of a sudden, here's what's amazing. Jesus, a.k.a. the gardener, says one thing, "Mary." And her eyes are opened. And she's standing with this person who she loves deeply, but she couldn't recognize. There's a relational that's new there. It's just her name. There's something familiar about it, but there's something brand new. And so the grief kind of gives way to recognition in that moment. And some relationships are in that season of life right now for you. They're new. For whatever reason, they're just new. It's a new friendship. It's a repaired marriage or a relationship with your child that's changing and evolving. There's something that has died, but something that is coming to life in these relationships. There's a new way of relating after a loss or conflict or healing. It's just that the relationship isn't what it once was, but there's hope. It's becoming something new. And before Mary's encounter fully unfolds with Jesus, all that we know is going to happen, she takes off and she runs back. She tells the disciples about the tomb. She announces it. We also find this really great story about the disciple John. John's got a little bit of an ego. I just want to say that right now, if you're not familiar with John. Like, John is understood to be the disciple that Jesus loved, as opposed to the other ones. John has a little bit of a problem with coming in second. We find out from the story that he's racing Peter to the tomb, like they're in a foot race, as only two heterosexual men would do. Like, I don't know what's going on there. Like, Jesus might be alive, but I'm worried about beating this joker to, not you, but like, MJ's not a joker, I promise. Right? But that's the story, right? So we get them racing to the tomb, and we're very clearly told that John gets there first. I don't know about you, but there's a lot of details left out of the story of the resurrection I would be prone to ask for besides who got there first. Right? Another good example that probably a man wrote the gospel itself, right? A patriarchal figure that was like, that's right, we won. Yeah. So he gets there, right? John arrives first, we're told. He looks inside the tomb, but doesn't go in, interestingly enough. Another kind of weird detail. And he sees that there's no body there. Peter goes in. Peter's not afraid of ghosts, right? He ain't afraid of no ghosts. Like, he just runs in. John's like, whoa, let's get the ghost hunters in here. What the heck is going on? I'm not. It's all folded up. It's like left behind in there. I'm not doing any of that. What is happening? That's a joke for those of you that grew up in the evangelical world. And you know that when the rapture happens, your clothes are going to be folded up neatly while your car crashes. That's how the apocalypse works. It's neat and tidy chaos and destruction of everything living. Okay, back to the story. So John looks in, he doesn't see anything, but here's what's fascinating. He comes to the tomb, and this is what the story tells us about John. He saw and believed. He saw and believed. He didn't need an encounter. He just believed. And this is the picture of what a strong relationship looks like. Just trust. Like, some of you have this in your life. You have people in your life that if you called and you were like, I've got a body in the trunk that I need to deal with, they're not going to ask why. They're going to just trust that you have a good reason and go with you. Like, everybody needs a friend like that. Like, my first question is always going to be, why is there a body in your trunk? But some of you are like so close to people, you're like, I got the spot. There's two already there. Don't worry about it. You just know they're so full of goodness that there's a good reason. They did nothing wrong, right? That's like John in this relationship with Jesus. He's like, I have no idea what's happening, but trust has been built. I saw it. I believe it. The faithfulness of the past is being remembered in the present. And so John's relationship has enough history and strength to withstand uncertainty. Strong relationships aren't perfect. The ones that you and I have, they're just simply relationships where trust has had enough time to like fill that relationship, and we learn how to breathe in the uncertainty. But then in the story, we get Thomas. Oh my gosh, Thomas. How many of you have heard the story of Thomas? Gets a bad rap. We call him names like Doubting Thomas, as if you wouldn't do the same thing. You guys are liars to yourselves. Like, hey guys, like, Thomas, you missed Jesus. Like, no, I didn't. You all did that to me once before. I'm not falling for that practical joke again. Made an idiot out of me in Capernaum. Nope. Not until I see him, right? So Thomas, here's the thing. Another interesting bit of the story. The disciples that night, they're all hanging out. They're in a room. They're scared. The door is closed. Jesus shows up. And for people that want to force you to have to believe in a physical resurrection, that it was a physical body, try and walk through a door with a physical body. You have to open the door. Jesus in the story didn't have to open the door. So if you don't believe that the body of Jesus was a physically resurrected thing, great. Whoever wrote John wasn't convinced of that either, right? Because Jesus just like magically appears. He's in the middle of them. He has this encounter, and then he leaves. And all we know is that Thomas wasn't there. Again, I'd love to know where Thomas was. Like, these are the questions of my heart in this story. Like, where was Thomas? What was so important that Thomas, on the day when all the news breaks, he's out willy-nilly doing whatever he's doing while everybody else is scared to death up in the upper room? Like, what is he doing? But we don't know that, but we know John won the foot race. These are my issues with the Bible, everybody, okay? These are my issues. Thanks for the therapy session today. Right, but Thomas comes back up, right? And the others tell him, hey, we've seen the risen Christ. Thomas is like, okay, whatever. He struggles to believe it. It's not like John. Because why? Thomas's relationship, right, is shaped by distance. He wasn't there. There's uncertainty. There's the need for honest proof. Like, he's looking at this relationship change and saying, whoa, like, all this Jesus guy, he invited us in, he told us to do all these things, and then now he's dead, and we've like uprooted our whole lives, and now you're telling me he's alive. I'm not going on that roller coaster ride again until I see him, until I touch the wounds, then I'll believe. Thomas is the image of these like relationships that find themselves in tension or stagnation, and they can't move forward because they're just stuck in uncertainty. It's a very real space. Like, what does Thomas need? He needs some trust to be rebuilt. Y'all ever been in a relationship where you feel like trust is broken and somebody says they're sorry and you're like, that's wonderful, but it's not enough? Some of you are like, wait, my church told me that if they said they were sorry, I had to forgive them or I'd go to hell. The whole other message. Okay, but listen, like reconciliation, trust, like that has to be rebuilt. And so sometimes we find ourselves in those relationships, and that's what he needs. He needs more before he can trust again. And here's what's amazing. Jesus meets him right there. Right? Like, if it were me, if I were Jesus, which I'm not, I know some of you, it's tricky to imagine, but I'm not. I would never show myself to Thomas. I'd be like, if you can't believe, that's on you. Do you have any idea what I just went through? And now I'm supposed to be your little trick? I'm supposed to show up for you? Where were you, Mr. Thomas, when I was being nailed to the cross? Oh, that's right. You're with everybody else that scattered and left me. You should have been there when I showed up. I got other things to do. But that's not Jesus, right? Jesus shows back up, looks right at him, love in his eyes, and says, Thomas, don't believe. Don't doubt. Just believe. Here it is. And he builds the trust back up. That's amazing. There's no shame. There's no condemnation, just his presence. And some relationships in our lives are stagnant. They're not dead. They're not over. They're just stuck. They're waiting for honesty, waiting for safety, waiting for trust to be rebuilt. And then finally, we're going to look at this guy named Peter. How many have ever heard of Peter before? Peter's a character. Oh my gosh, he's a character. This guy chops off people's ears. This guy, is called Satan by Jesus. True story. Well, truth in the story. Okay, that's right. Like, Jesus is asking, who do you say that I am? And Peter gets the answer right. But then Jesus is like, yeah, you're right. And they're going to kill me and I'm going to die. And then Peter's like, oh, no, they're not. Because we're going to wipe them all out. We're going to destroy them. We're going to make sure that never happens to you, Jesus. And what does Jesus call Peter in that moment? He says, get behind me, Satan. And I would submit that anyone and any statement that is about power through violence and wiping people off the face of the planet and sending them back to the Stone Age is an act of Antichrist. And Jesus would say, get behind me, Satan. That was an allusion to our president. Okay. In case you missed it. So after the resurrection, Peter, this guy, right? He returns to something familiar because he feels like a failure, I think. He has denied Jesus, the rooster crowed. Like, I don't know him. Starts swearing, cussing. Like, little kids are asking him, and he's like yelling at little kids, let the little children come to me. Jesus, Peter missed that lesson. And so he's out there and he's back to what's comfortable. And he's out there fishing and he looks off to the shore and he sees something and he says, that's Jesus. He jumps out of the boat, swims back to shore, has breakfast with Jesus. And in that ordinary moment, right there on the shoreline, right after breakfast with this resurrected one, the risen Christ begins to restore this relationship. And what does he start asking him? Do you love me? Isn't that a good question? Do you love me? You know, remember Jesus had asked him, who do you say that I am? This propositional idea. But when he restores Peter, what does he call Peter into? Love. He doesn't say, Peter, you get it now, right? Like, you know who I am. You know who I am. No. He's like, Peter, I get it. You're never going to know who I am. Nobody's going to know who I am. I'm just that awesome. But do you love me? Yes, Lord, I love you. Then feed my sheep. This relationship is in transition. Peter's stuck. He doesn't know what to do. Is Jesus going to accept? Peter, do you love me more than these? Who knows what he's talking about there? Is he talking about the fish and the fishing? Is he talking about the other disciples? We're not really sure. Do you love me more than these? Yes, you know that I love you, Lord. And a third time he says, do you love me? And now Peter starts to show up in the room. You ever do that? Like you feel like you're doing really well. And then you realize, oh, wait, no, there I am. And like your anger starts to come out, your frustration. Like you're like, I was doing so good in this relationship. So the third time, Peter starts to get frustrated with the resurrected one, which I love. I think that's amazing. He's like, Lord, Jesus, why do you keep asking me if I love you? You know that I love you. Then feed my sheep. If you love me, then go out and love the world. Love the people that love me. And what is he doing? The resurrected one is restoring a new relationship. He's transitioning, transforming this relationship. And that's what a relationship that's in transition feels like. A friendship that's changing with time or distance, a child that's becoming an adult, a marriage that's entering a new stage. There's love that's present there. It's sustaining and it's holding everything together. And this is what we see, like Peter's relationship with Jesus is being transformed, but love remains. Love is at the center. And you and I have relationships like that. And so here's the Easter truth. Here's the big resurrection payoff moment, right? Every relationship in your life, every one of them is living in one of these four spaces. Every relationship is either new, it's strong, it's stagnant, or it's transitioning. And the question is, how does the resurrection empower me to show up in those spaces? How does it offer me hope in every one of them? Hope for the new relationship and the strong relationship, for the relationship that's stuck like Thomas, for the relationship that's transitioning and changing like Peter. And as that happens and as tension builds in our relationship, here's the whole point of the series. So if you can't come back for the next 4 weeks, here it is, okay? We are responsible for how we show up in every one of those seasons. We are responsible. I'm responsible for how I show up. I'm not responsible for controlling others. I'm not responsible for shaping how they're going to perceive or what they're going to do. I'm responsible for tending to myself. There's this beautiful proverb that's kind of the anchor of this whole series. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23. Here's what it says. Keep your heart with all vigilance, for from it flow the springs of life. Now, a lot of us wish that said, keep the heart of the person you are frustrated with all vigilance, for from it flows their spring of death, right? Or whatever it might be, right? But that's not what this beautiful proverb says. Hey, this is the alternative to blame. Before you go putting all these expectations on how other people should behave and other people should look and other people should dress and other people should say and what they should say in this relationship. No. Start with your own inner spring. Like, what are you bringing to the table, right? Before I ask how they need to change, I have to ask the honest question, like, what is flowing out of me in this relationship right now? So don't miss this on Easter 2026 and probably the worst message ever. Don't miss this. My inner life, your inner life shapes our outer relationships. That's it. And the resurrection says I can be confident enough to know that my inner life is always going to be in a process of death and resurrection. And the same spirit that raised Christ from the dead. I know you think we pick these songs randomly, but we got spirit. You get it? That same spirit that raised Christ from the dead lives in you and empowers you into resurrection in your relationship. What flows from the heart eventually flows into our words and our reactions and our assumptions, our patience and our love. And this is why we're calling the series, I Promise Me. And it's not that you're promising yourself to someone else. That's not what this series is about. We left it ambiguous and mysterious. I promise me is this: before I can show up for any relationship in my life well, before I can show up well for them, I have to decide the kind of person I'm going to be inside that relationship. Who am I? What do I want to be? These aren't promises that I make to other people. These are promises I make to myself. How am I going to show up? What are my values going to be? How will I be present in that space? And so whether the relationship is new or strong or stagnant or transitioning, we show up with hope and with intention that this is who I will be in this space. And I will not give that over to another person. I will not let them turn my commitment to love and peacemaking into hate and violence. I won't let it happen. And this is the power of walking the peacemaking path of Jesus. It is not a liberal path. It is not a progressive path. It's not a conservative path. It is an alternative path. It is a way that heals the world, that doesn't blame, but says, here's how I'm going to show up. And in your everyday normal life, we're going to talk about over the next 4 weeks, promises that we can make to ourselves. So in your everyday normal, here's the promises. We're going to go through these real quick, and then we're going to get you out of here, all right? Because I know you got the roast going and the whole thing, okay? You got your pens ready for your fill-in, folks, because I'm going to go fast, all right? First promise, number 1, be impeccable with your word. That no matter how people treat you, no matter what they say, no matter what they do, you be impeccable with your word. I'm going to be an impeccable person with my word. When I say yes, I'm going to let it be a yes. When I say no, I'm going to let it be a no. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be open. I'm going to be transparent. Whatever the cost is for that. Second promise, don't take anything personally. You had me, Ryan, and you just lost me. You little jerk. I don't know. That's fair. Because here's what your brain went like, but what if it is personal? I don't know if you know, but I've been called some personally offensive things in my life by people I don't even know. But we're going to talk about how we come into the space and we try to see that and understand the world bigger. That wounds create wounds. And so how do we make a commitment to not take things personally? Because here's what happens. When we start to take things personally, we get out of our space. We lose our power. We lose that like, okay, I'm hidden. My life is hidden in Christ, that metaphor. And all of a sudden, like, I'm off the peacemaking path pretty quick. You know, can I get an amen? Like I veer. Oof. True Social can make me veer. But I don't want to be that person, right? So we're going to make a commitment, a promise to ourselves. We're going to talk about don't make assumptions. Don't make assumptions. Here's the thing about assumptions. We never know when we're doing it. That's the problem. We really rarely know when we're making assumptions. So we have to learn that discerning process, right? Promise number 4, always do your best. I'm going to always do my best, whatever that might be. If I say yes, I'm going to give 100%. We're going to talk about that. Always do your best. And then here's the last one. It's a little tricky, so you're going to want to definitely listen. Not now, but then when we talk about it. Be skeptical, but learn to listen. We're going to kind of lean into the story of Thomas this week. What does it mean to be a discerning person, to give ourselves space, to not rush in with foolish trust, with blind trust? How can we hold a measure of skepticism to reality, to what we're experiencing, but also learn to listen to the moment? And so these are our resurrection practices. These are our promises. These are the things that oftentimes we feel like we can't live into, but the same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead lives in you. Whether you know it or not, it does. That's just how good the divine is. It's just how annoying the divine is, really, to just stick around where it's not wanted. But that's the beauty of it all. Resurrection hope means that in the hardest relational season that you are in, you still have agency over how you show up, how you engage. That same Spirit lives in you and daily can resurrect you into a new life, your best self, that will in turn change the world. Not the world to come. I promise you, the one after this one is just fine. I don't know if you know it or not, but we've got some problems in this one. And we need peacemakers. The kingdom is advanced through peacemaking, this metaphor that Jesus would use. It's present, it's here, we can live in it. And so the world gets better not by mastering others, not by telling them what to do and how to behave, not by controlling outcomes, not by saying, well, I'm going to do my best. And then when I do my best and nobody says thank you, then I'm going to get angry and I'm going to never do it again. Because then what if, no, I do my best. I bring my authentic self, and whether you say thank you or not, you're not my audience. You don't get to determine my character. Your response, the outcome. I think our church is a beautiful example of that. We hold to our values and we say consequences be damned. We're going to follow the peacemaking path of Jesus wherever it takes us. If wherever we're meeting, wherever we're doing, we want to clothe the naked and feed the hungry, proclaim freedom to those in captive to religious ideas that are distortions of the beauty of the God revealed in Jesus. And the outcomes I can't control. I can't control them. I'm not going to demand that they change first. No. I'm going to change myself. I want to be a part of my own transformation, death to life. I want to die to self, be resurrected to the power of love every day. And that's hard, but that's when the world becomes better. It becomes better when we take ownership of ourselves. That's how peace grows. That's how it flourishes. See, peace begins when I stop trying to manage everybody else's heart and begin tending to my own. Because I don't have to be ashamed of my heart. I just have to tend to it. Are there some weeds in my heart? Not mine. I'm the pastor. But that's a bad example. Of course. You can find my children around here. They're all adults. My spouse, you can ask her. There's some weeds in my heart. Oh my gosh. But I'm changing them. It's fine. That's a joke on the whole message that some of you will get on the way home. I'm just working on me. That's Easter hope. That I can be loved and full and held by the divine just as I am, whatever my pronouns are, whatever my gender identity is, whatever my sexual orientation, whatever my economic status, whatever my immigration status is. I'm loved and I'm whole and I'm beautiful and I'm made in the image of God. But guess what? I'm also kind of messed up. And both of those things can be true at the same time because the same spirit that raised Christ from the dead lives in you in all the mess. And it's just present, saying, hey, maybe we put that one in the tomb for a little bit, and then we come resurrected out of that one. What do you say? So when the relationship is hard, when the season is painful, when the future feels unclear, just remember, there is resurrection in the darkest of nights. And we can control how we show up. But here's the beauty of it all. God's present in the midst of it. The divine is present in the midst of it. Henry Nouwen wrote this. He said, resurrection means that nothing that has ever happened to us is lost in God's love. That means no matter what the pain is, the joy is, the hurt, the frustration, the anger, the evil that you have experienced, it is never lost in God's love. That's what resurrection teaches us. That all of those things, while never intended by the divine, never caused by the divine, can be transformed by the resurrection power in our lives. And beauty can come out of those ashes. And so the resurrection reminds us that hope still belongs in every relational season. So what is it that God's inviting you into? What is the Spirit inviting you into? The universe, love, whatever word you like to use. You're here for a reason. Maybe she's really pretty. Maybe he's really handsome. Maybe they are just so smart. And they were like, we're going to go to church. And you were like, if I can go with you, I'm going. But you're here. And maybe there's a divine whisper. What is it that God's inviting you into today? Maybe it's to stay connected for the rest of this series, to choose to work on yourself, to become the best version of you. Make some commitments. Maybe you're new and you're feeling a little hopeful about a church experience that might not be grounded in rules and judgment and fear, but love. But you have some questions, and they're real questions. I'd love to meet with you. Love to answer any questions you have, share my story, hear your story, just be present together. I like to do that over whiskey, but we can do it over coffee if you don't prefer whiskey or whatever. We can do breakfast, just not carbs. I'm not eating sugar or carbs right now, so don't bring that to the table. because then I'll just be angry and in a bad mood, okay? But if you want to do that, send me a text or just check the box on the back of your Connect card and I'll reach out and we'll set up a time. I'd love to do that. And I just want to encourage you, maybe you've been around for a little bit and you've been thinking about fresh perspective and a little hopeful that there can be a faith that you could fall in love with again. I just encourage you to check out that Fresh Perspective conversation group. Just check out the material. It's just a conversation about your experiences with these big topics. And so you're invited to do it. Maybe that's it. Maybe you heard a song I don't know. You're all smart people. You're here. So what is it? But I want to say to you this as I wrap up. If you're in a season where hope feels difficult, it feels difficult in a relationship. It feels difficult as you look at the world we live in. It feels difficult about work or your finances, but hope is hard for you right now. This song reminds us that the resurrection stories, what they mean and what they invite us into can inspire us to hold on to hope even when we feel that all is lost. Because regardless of where a relationship is, we still have hope because we still have agency. We still can show up the way we're called and we want to show up. We can live with resurrection power, with resurrection hope, and we can trust that there is no night that is too dark for resurrection light. And we can live with this hope, with this belief, with this as our footing, that resurrection hope will always have the final word, even in something that feels so final as death. And that's what this song, that the musicians, the singers are going to sing over us today, that we still have hope even in the most darkest times. Happy Easter.